Yeah, so my name is Max Schwartz. I'm the owner of the Dirt Bike Depot. I'm also the owner of the Dirt Bike Depot Racing. I'm also truck driver, I guess team manager. I'm the laundry guy too. Goggle prepper, helmet cleaner, kind of a lot of roles with the team, but it's my passion, so it doesn't really feel like a job, but yeah.
So what first got you started into the moto industry when you were younger? How long have you been in the industry for?
So I started riding when I was really little. I think I was 5 or 6 when I started riding, or maybe a little bit younger. Started obviously on a P-Dub, went up to a Honda little 50, just kind of like worked my way up, but it was always kind of for fun. It wasn't until I was really kind of like on 65s, I started doing like little local races. Obviously moved up to an 85, did races here and there. There were a couple of years where I would try to do bigger races like regionals, and every time I would either crash or get hurt. Or my love for the sport wasn't really in racing. It was more so in just riding and having fun. And yeah, I mean, I grew up around a lot of racing. Like my dad was a professional race boat driver back in the day, so like I've always kind of been around some sort of racing, whether it was dirt bikes or go-karts or the boat stuff. In the industry though, really kind of started when I was like 15 or 16. I started another company with somebody else. Obviously that didn't work out. And when I was 17 or 18 in high school, senior in high school, down in South Florida, I pretty much started the Dirt Bike Depot as just like a way to move inventory that I still had. We were doing a little bit of gear stuff back in the day. So I guess that was my first intro into the industry. But still wasn't really like in the industry. I'd go to a couple races, a couple Supercross races here and there. But I've gone to Supercross races since I was a little kid. So would always go to Daytona. Always kind of wanted to be a part of something in the industry, but obviously I was really little. I was young. Nobody really took me seriously. And then I did the college route. So I went to college, got a 4-year degree. In doing that, I never really had the opportunity or really the chance or the time to like work for another team or travel to races with another team. So I figured the best way to do is to kind of do it on my own, start from scratch. And I think my first attempt at a team, I sponsored a bunch of riders from 2018 to 2021-ish, but our first real attempt as a team, I'd say, was 22. I spent a lot of time with a couple riders in 21, the COVID year when we were doing all the residencies. A lot of time with guys like Kevin Moran's, which I got really close with these guys, and I learned a lot about how other teams that they were on, how they operate. And it was more so on like a friendship level with a lot of these guys rather than just a business level. And I took a lot of what I was learning, kind of just acted like a sponge for a couple of years. Saw the good side of the sport, the bad side, all of it, and really just. I've always known I wanted to do something as a team. I didn't know if I wanted to do my own team. I didn't know if I wanted to be a manager of another team. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I kind of took everything that I learned, everything that I saw, the good, the bad, what not to do. And yeah, like I said, our first real attempt was 22, but I was still in college, so I couldn't really do the full thing. I had somebody taking all of our stuff. We go to some of the races, we put a little setup up, had a couple riders that we'd help out. I think we only made it to half because our transport at the time kind of fell through. It was with another rider. That rider ended up getting hurt. So yeah, I'd say after that, then our first real year after that was 23, and that was kind of our goal. There was to get to all the races, see how much it's going to cost, get a little bit of help together. It was not nearly as legit as I thought it was during the time, but even that taught me so much about just the grind. I thought I kind of knew what I was getting into, and then now it's a little bit more eye-opening. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I've always been like a little bit of an entrepreneur, whether it's selling shoes back in the day. I sold mangoes on the side of my street when I was younger, so I've always been into selling stuff in business. So that was kind of why I started the Dirt Bike Depot. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit of the way I got into the industry. There was definitely no easy way into it. This industry is tough to get into. It's tough to stay into because there's just a lot of stuff people don't really see. I love it though. Like I love everybody a part of it, whether they're associated with Dirt Bike Depot, whether they're just other truck drivers, mechanics. There's really a tight knit community of people in this sport. and everybody works their ass off. So it's when you put a bunch of people that work really hard together, usually they work well. So
you touched on it a little bit. You started out, you were younger, you had an entrepreneurial mindset, but you're probably the youngest team owner, manager, driver in the paddock. Is there some other team owners or managers or teams that you've looked up to help you kind of form how you want to build this team and what you want to aspire to grow to?
Yeah, so I don't know if there'd be one direct team that like I could look at and be like, oh, we're trying to, you know, be like them. I've worked with a lot of teams and a lot of different riders, from guys out of white Sprinter vans all the way up to factory guys, and been around their teams. Like worked with, you know, Kyle Chisholm, worked with Kevin Moranz. Brandon Hartraft was, you know, big motivator of mine to kind of see where he was at and how his team operated. I wouldn't really pinpoint it to like one specific team. I'd more so say I try to see the good in each of these teams and what they do well. You know, like Club MX, like they, you know, obviously we're not associated with Club, but we, you know, being at all these races, you kind of see how teams operate, and gotten a lot of inspiration from them. Obviously the factory teams, you know, most of those guys crush it. So the goal is to be like those guys, but also the goal isn't to be them. The goal is, you know, to be our own team. The goal is to, you know, start differently than everybody else started. Like you said, there's not a lot of younger team owners and drivers and people kind of trying to do what we're doing. So when I kind of sit down and realize, like, you know, we're a bunch of kids in our, you know, mid, lower, upper 20s, like there's nobody really doing what we're doing. And that's kind of a big motivating factor for me, is like I said, nobody's really done it the way we've done it. Nobody's really started where we've started. Our growth in the last, you know, 2.5, 3 years has really been like cool for me too, because 2.5 years ago, during our first season, like I didn't know what was going to come out about it. I thought it was, you know, a good way to get to the races. I didn't know if this was something I wanted to do my whole life, but a lot of bike revs in the background. But I knew it was something I wanted to be a part of. And I kind of just, you know, like I said, I kind of just used other teams around me to see how they operated. And obviously there's good and bad in every situation. I really try to wipe out the bad with us. And although we're not on huge budgets, we don't have a ton of support. Our support that we do have is really, really, you know, special. And everybody plays a part in us getting to the races and making this possible. So I don't know, there's a lot of people to look up to in the sport and a lot of people that do it right, and we've just kind of tried to like learn and be a sponge off of what those guys do. And there are some people too that have been, you know, just played a huge factor in the motivation side of things, and whether it's riders or, you know, Ty and just part of the crew that like motivate me to want to be better with the team. Obviously results are the biggest motivating factor. When I see our guys do better, when I see them happy around our pits, like that makes it worth it for me. And obviously last weekend in Foxborough, when we have, you know, a good result like that, we, you know, put it on the podium, which is pretty unheard of in this industry, to be a year 3 team and bring home a trophy. So that's motivating. I'm very self-motivated though. Like I always want more. You know, we go and we have a podium, celebrate for an hour, and it's like, all right, how can we be, you know, better the next weekend? How can we learn from what we just did? And I think that kind of holds back a lot of people in this sport. Is, you know, satisfaction is nice to have every once in a while, but if you lose that motivation, there's no point in doing, you know, what you're doing every day. So, Sam, for sure, biggest self-motivation as the team, and kind of our success as a team.
So, the Dirt Bike Depot is started by you about 2018. The race team, you said you kind of got into this industry in about 2021. What is your vision for both the brand of Dirt Bike Depot? Where do you see that progressing to, as well as the Dirt Bike Depot racing team in the next 3 to 5 years? What is your vision?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good question, but it's tough to kind of like put it into words because I'm not really sure. Obviously, we have goals and we have things we want to accomplish. I want to win races. I want to be the top dog. I want our team to be the top dog. I want to take our sponsors with us. I'd say in the next, you know, couple of years, like we want that factory support. We want to be out of an 18-wheeler. We want to be, you know, the guys winning the premier class races. We want to have 450 riders. In a way, I I kind of just want to be different than everybody else in the sense that, like, we started at ground zero. We started in a van, in a little 12-foot trailer, barely even taking parts. And to now, you know, see two years later, we have, you know, a big rig, and we provide bikes for guys, and we have a little bit of help from KTM, which is, you know, amazing, but it's, the vision is so much deeper than what we're at now. You know, I want that factory support. I want to be a factory team. I want to win races on a regular basis. And if we're not winning, I want to be on that podium. And I want to just elevate guys to where we can take somebody, you know, whether it's, you know, one of our guys this year, Gates Linville, you know, Marcus Phelps, Crockett Myers, whoever it is, and take them to here or have them start here and kind of take them to the next level. And that's the ultimate goal with the team, is just to keep building on what we're doing. Obviously the growth is cool, but I want so much more for this team, and I see so much more happening. As far as Dirt Bike Depot, I'm not sure, because my love for the sport has kind of shifted from, you know, the business side of things and, you know, what we do on the dirtbikedepot.com side of things, to running the team and being at the races and being around such gnarly dudes every weekend is, I mean, that's another motivating factor. These guys are such animals and they don't get enough credit. So that's a lot of motivation. The goals for just everything is just to keep growing, and I don't want to be these teams that come in for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and then they're out. You know, we kind of live by that motto. Like, we're here to stay. We're the new kids on the block, but like, we're not the new kids on the block that are going to be gone in a couple years. You know, I want to make this my career. I want to do it because I love it. It's my passion. And I see it going to places that, like, in 3, 4 years, we're going to look back this year and be like, dude, that was funny. Like, we were hyped over a third. That's kind of how I operate. Like I said, you know, after our podium last weekend, it was really cool. I was so happy for everybody, so happy to kind of pay back our sponsors for what they do for us. But I slept on it, and I woke up in the morning and realized it wasn't a dream, and I was like, all right, how do we be better? You know, how do we replicate that in Philly? How do we keep breaking inside that top 10, that top 5, and just really separating ourselves from everybody else? It's a tough industry, but you got to be tougher, you know.
And what are your biggest accomplishments or proudest moments as a team owner of the Dirt Bike Depot Racing?
I'd say two races really stand out to me. Obviously, we've had a lot of cool highlights with NFL players and, you know, going to IndyCar facilities, and, you know, the growth of the team would be overall like my biggest, proudest thing. But the highlights itself, I'd say, you know, probably in that number 2 spot was Birmingham last year. We put all 4 of our guys in a main event, and I think we made up like 20% of the main event. So that was really cool. For a couple of our guys, it was their first mains ever. So that was really, really, you know, nice to see for them. At the time, that was unbelievable. Like, we were all so happy about that. And, you know, we just threw up a post a couple of days ago, like 350 days ago, we were so happy to put, you know, 4 guys in a main, and last weekend we got a podium. So I'd say that's number 1 on the list, obviously, is just that whole day was good. You know, obviously Crockett had a LCQ in. We hung out with a bunch of our friends at the Patriots. And then obviously coming back from dead last to third was just really cool. Cool for obviously Gage, cool for everybody on the team. But I think I cried for like 2 or 3 days after that. Like, every hour I'd think about it and I'd shed a little bit of a tear. That was pretty surreal. And there's not many people in this industry who can say they have a podium, let alone a year 3 team bringing home a podium. So I'd say that's number 1 on the list. Number 2 would be Birmingham. And then honorable mention would probably just, you know, just have these guys like enjoying being at the races with us. Like, a lot of people say the vibe around our pit is special, and I try so hard to put guys together that I know would be a good fit, whether it's, you know, the riders with the mechanics, the crew, like, everybody just gels so well. And even on the bad weekends when we don't, you know, have main events or we miss a night show or whatever it is, like, that makes up for it, because I know these guys are leaving, and they could be disappointing results, but they're leaving on, like, you know, not being disappointed about the team or not needing more from the team. Like, they're kind of taking their focus and shifting on self-growth rather than being mad about something with the team. I'd say that's like my honorable mention or my 3rd favorite part about this team.
So being the team that started with a sprinter van, a tiny trailer, upgraded sprinter van to a little bit of a nicer build out of the trailer, to this year coming with the Renegade, the trailer, the professional full looking setup, I feel like it's a very relatable story, and a little bit more relatable than seeing these teams that show up in semis. What kind of advice do you have, or recommendations you'd have for people who are newer in the industry, kids maybe wanting to follow in the same footsteps of you, starting a team, putting a program together? What would your biggest takeaways, lessons learned, and advice be for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question, because there's so much to running a team that a lot of people don't see, whether it's a team our size, a bigger team, a smaller team, whatever it is. And obviously no disrespect, no hate to anybody, any of the factory teams, any other teams. But a lot of these teams will come in and they'll have like huge budgets and they'll start huge. And as the years go on, they kind of drop. They cut budgets, they cut riders, they do whatever they got to do, which is fair. Like, everybody's got their own plan and their own track. But for us, it's I don't know. It's a tough question, because the biggest thing in this sport is, if you're gonna be in it, you have to like love the sport. You have to love the industry. It's one thing to love dirt bikes. It's another thing to love the industry when you're in it. So I'd say first step is to make sure you really want to do it. Make sure you really love it. My biggest thing first year was like, it was a grind. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I loved it. Like, I loved the goggle prep. I loved getting home and knowing I had a bunch of stuff to clean and re-prep and get bikes ready. But I knew doing that would help the riders achieve their goals. So I'd say the biggest thing is come in with a positive mindset. If you do want to start a team, start small. Work your way, instead of working your way huge and kind of working it from the outside in. Start on the inner and just kind of build each year. Focus on like having that vibe around your team that like you want to be at. Like, if I came here and as a team owner I didn't enjoy it, I didn't like the riders, I didn't like being around the riders and the crew, and it just made it like not fun, there's no point in doing it. So I'd say step 2 is obviously have fun if you're gonna do it. The hardest thing as a team owner who does a lot of other little roles is obviously the support. Getting sponsors is super, super tough. And I didn't realize how tough that'd be coming in. Even last year, like when we really went after sponsors, it's tough. And I respect all these teams who have huge budgets, because it's amazing, and that's what you need in this sport. And obviously our goal is to be able to get our budget to those levels to where we can pay big salaries and pay big bonuses. Yeah, it just really ties down to wanting to be, in the position you're in. You make your own fate, and if you show up to these things and you are half-assing things, excuse my language, you're half-assing things, it's not going to work. Riders aren't going to want to be a part of your team. So yeah, I would just say it really ties down to the work ethic, the want, the desire to be there. It's a ton of work, and I don't think a lot of people realize, because a lot of small teams will come in and do all X, Y, Z, and then they're like, shit, there goes our 2025 or 2026 budget, whatever it is. So I'd say it's a lot. It's fun in times, it's a grind at times, it sucks at times. But when I wake up every day and realize like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, makes it a lot easier. Makes it a lot easier for me to justify not being home for 6 or 8 months out of the year. Obviously I got family back home, my girlfriend back home. Everybody misses you when you're gone a lot. But when you have weekends like Foxborough, weekends like Birmingham last year, and weekends where like these guys are putting in good results and the sponsors are happy, it justifies the long days and the long weeks. And there's really no days off, which a lot of people think, oh, you're just there on Friday, Saturday, and you race and then you go home. Like, our week starts on Sunday. We wake up, we drive to wherever we ever have to be. Sometimes I get the day off on Sunday afternoon. I can sleep in a little bit, wake up, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like this past week. And usually every round is prep, getting things ready. Then we, roll in Wednesday night to set up Thursday, get things ready Thursday, get things ready Friday, get all the bikes ready. It's a lot. So there's really no days off. But again, if you enjoy your job, you feel like you never work a day in your life. And so I wake up every day and I'm blessed, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the growth, the opportunity to even be here. And yeah, couldn't do it without obviously everybody a part of the crew, all the riders, mechanics, the sponsors. Yeah, that's another motivating factor. Everybody, we have a lot of cool support, and I want to make those guys happy. Want to make my family proud, and my brother's out here and being a doctor in residency and med school and all these different things, and I'm running a dirt bike team. So just chase your dreams, and if you love it, it doesn't feel like work.
All right, so to wrap this up, stoked to see the growth and be a part of it over these past couple of years. But what are your social outlets for the race team, for your business, and where can people, if they want to follow along for the race team and the journey, where can they follow you and the team at?
Yeah, so the team page is obviously DBD Racing. We've had a lot of growth on that page the last couple months. Obviously, follow DBD Racing. Dirt Bike Depot is our business page on Instagram. The website's thedirt-bikedepot.com. You can find our email, all of our handles, Linktree, sponsorship information. We have a lot of cool things like that with like VIP weekend experiences, weekend title sponsors, obviously full season long sponsorships. We're actually going to outdoors for our first time, so we want to bring in as much support for outdoors as we can, and hopefully we can keep the growth, keep the pages rolling. Obviously, you can follow all of our riders on our team Instagram. Yeah, any questions, you can shoot messages to us there. We're always active on the socials, so you can find us there. And yeah, hopefully we can keep the growth, keep the momentum going into these last 3 rounds, into Salt Lake, into outdoors, and yeah, build better each year. That's the goal.
Perfect.